Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. We're talking Mirror Force in this video and asking the question, how do you feel about this card right now, and what are your opinions on the fact that it has kind of come back in the favor over the last couple of weeks? Now, Mirror Force is one of those cards, in my opinion, it's never ever going to truly be bad, because if you just look at the card on face value, it generally will stop your opponent's battle phase, and you usually get like a field nuke out of it, because it's not uncommon for your opponent to put everything in attack mode, just because it's such kind of a wishy-washy card. I mean, Mirror Force is one of the few cards in the game where if you look at multiple formats and the history of this card, I mean, it's pretty much been up and down like a roller coaster. Some formats, the card is great. Some formats, it's been unplayable. I think that people started kind of jumping off of Mirror Force during Teledad format because it became so common to summon Stardust Dragon, and Stardust Dragon was just an easy out to it, and it protected your board. And then if you fast forward further into the game, after Dragons of Legends came out, Fire Hand and Ice Hand were things, and nobody wants to Mirror Force those because they will just trigger, and that will just never be good. And then when Duelist Alliance came out, it was like even further nail in coffin, because you had Shadows and you had Burning Abyss and Yang Zing, and if you Mirror Force those guys, they would all trigger, so you'd end up going neg, and it was just like, you know, there's always been this raging debate between Mirror Force and Dimensional Prison. And I feel like over the last few years, Dimensional Prison has obviously won that debate, because when you banish a monster, it's generally hard as fuck to get it back. I mean, outside of Levier and maybe one or two other cards, it's pretty much gone for the entire game. And a lot more monsters trigger when they're sent to the graveyard as opposed to when they're being banished. So Mirror Force has kind of been a card that's been maligned over the past few years. However, if you look at the game right now, and you think about how I've been saying, I mean, we have so much damage that we put on board pretty much with every deck by the end of, or by turn 2, definitely. Mirror Force is coming back to play because it stops those people who just go YOLO, who want to go ham, who just say, you know what, you have one back row, but chances are it might be a bluff. I'm just going to go ham and try and OTK you. You know, I would say one of the best examples of this is Cleaforts. I mean, they're a deck where they can pendulum summon 5 monsters essentially for free if you've already used Scout to get your pendulum scale on, or a lot of times they'll just summon Disc and maybe they pin the monster, so that'll be like 4 monsters on board. And a lot of times people just go YOLO, and Mirror Force is one of those cards that they're never quite expecting. And even though you don't actually permanently take care of those monsters because they'll just go to the extra deck, you survive a turn, and that's really big in Yu-Gi-Oh, considering we've already established that if your opponent loses all their monsters, even though they can get them back, you can just do the same thing that they just tried to do to you to them during their next turn, and basically you might be able to game them. Now, I think that the big edge that Mirror Force has over Dimensional Prison right now is it not only takes care of all your opponent's monsters, and I mean, it pretty much ends that battle phase, but it's like a momentum changer. I don't think D-Prison has ever been accused of completely swinging momentum. I mean, yeah, there may be a couple of times where your opponent attacked with a Dante and you D-Prisoned it and you came back and won, but that's only still a 1-for-1. If you're able to Mirror Force, you know, an Infernoid field of like 3-4 monsters, and then next turn you just go ham, that's momentum changing. I mean, basically you just cleared their board and you said, okay, well, now I've got an open field, I'm just going to go ham on you. That's what I like about Mirror Force right now. It's a card that it almost gives up advantage for momentum. You know, I don't think that this card is significantly better than it has previously been, just because even when you Mirror Force things now, a lot of times, you know, Burning Abyss will still trigger. Your opponent's Klee monsters just go to the extra deck, and you know, a lot of decks don't really care, but it's the fact that you get to see the next turn. It's the fact that you can potentially say, all right, well, you just wasted your battle phase and I have an open board. I'm going to do to you what you just did to me. So let me know what you guys think of Mirror Force. I think that the card is actually really, really good right now because too many people go YOLO. Too many people invest a lot on board. And even if their cards float, they don't really get to establish their board presence after that Mirror Force, and they have a completely open field. And a lot of times if you can mount them during your next turn, you win. So advantage doesn't really matter. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, as always. Subscribing makes life happy.